I hope you guys are all okay and all good. Welcome to another video. My name is George. For those of you who don't know, feel free to subscribe down below if you're not already. And this is the story of how I got my literary agent. Sorry for the new setup. My bookshelves are kind of in a state at the moment, so I've just kind of set this up like at my desk. So that's my bed behind me. This is a question that was asked to me by the lovely Daniel, who is a bookseller at Waterstones and who has also read Boy Queen and enjoyed it. So we love Daniel. I made this video a very long time ago, and it has since been privatized on my channel. And I did go back and watch it just to see exactly what I said. And while a lot of it still applies, obviously that was like 3 or 4 years ago now. So a lot has changed since I told that story. I do want to put a quick disclaimer on this video in that while I am someone who has a literary agent and I'm someone who has worked in publishing, everyone's experiences of getting a literary agent is completely different. Like no two stories will be the same. So with that in mind, take whatever advice I give or anything I say with like a nice big chunky handful of salt. It might apply to you, it might not, but either way, I'm gonna tell you it. So flashback to NaNoWriMo 2013. That's right. So in 2013, I was doing my undergraduate degree. I was in my last year. I was having to write a creative writing dissertation. I was having to figure out exactly what that was going to be. And I was sort of semi-using NaNoWriMo as a way of figuring that out. I was going to write something and see if maybe I could use it for my dissertation. In the end, I didn't. I wrote something else entirely, but that's besides the point. So the novel that got me my agent is something that I wrote during NaNoWriMo, which is such a classic story. I wrote it in November. I wrote it very, very fast. I pantsed the entire thing as well, which is not usually how I work, but I pantsed the entire thing from start to finish and then left it in a drawer for a while and then went back to working on it. I had a few people read it here and there and kind of give me feedback and give me notes, and I worked some of that stuff in, and then I sent it out to literary agents. At the same time as doing this, I was working on a middle grade novel that I'd been like writing since I was like 11 years old. And because I was doing that, I didn't know which one to send out. So we had middle grade book that I'd worked on for a really long time, and we had brand new shiny YA novel idea that I'd written in like a couple of months. So I sent out a tweet asking for advice from any authors and anyone who might be able to help me about whether or not I send out the middle grade or the YA. And someone, I don't know who, someone said, send both. There are no rules. Hindsight being what it is, I think a good rule would be don't do that. So I did end up sending them both out. I spent a lot of time researching agents, a lot of time figuring out who I was going to be sending it to and why. I needed a reason why I was sending them the middle grade and not the YA over the YA over the middle grade, whatever I was doing. I even sent the YA and the middle grade to 2 different agents at the same agency. It was kind of out of control. So I made a spreadsheet, I put everyone into it and who was getting what and what the date I'd sent it to them and if they replied, all of that stuff. I was gonna keep track of it and kind of be really, really sensible about it. But then after I sent out my YA book, I sent my YA book out at like 12 o'clock on a Friday or a Thursday, I can't remember which day, and 3 hours later, Sam Copeland, who is now my agent, got back to me requesting the full manuscript. For those of you who don't know, when you send out a manuscript to agents, they usually ask for 3 chapters and a synopsis. So that's what I sent him. And within 3 hours, he had come back to me and said, this is great, I want to read the rest of it. So that was in 3 hours of sending the submission. This had never happened to me before. I'd been sending out my middle grade book for like a few years. Like I'd rewrite it and then I'd send it again. I'd rewrite it and I'd send it again. I'd done it like 2 or 3 times at this point, and never had I had a full manuscript be requested. So for this to happen was kind of incredible. Like I had no idea. Like it was such an incredible feeling because it was like validation for this thing that I had done. It was like, oh wow, someone else likes this thing. This is great. When that happens, it is your duty as a writer and a polite human being to send an email to the other agents that you have queried to tell them that you have had someone request the full manuscript. So I got to do that. And that was really exciting to get to send the email that was like, oh, hey, by the way, I know I've just sent you this thing like 3 hours ago, but someone already wants to read the whole thing. So it might be good. You don't say that. Do not say that, please. I didn't. And please don't you do that either. But essentially you do that and it makes them move a bit faster because suddenly the book looks interesting. And you do that so they've got a heads up so they can read it if it's something that interests them and so that they can move on it if they want to move on it. It's a way that means that no one misses out and that it's kind of a level playing field. And even though it had only been 3 hours, it was a fun email to send either way. So I did that. I got a little bit more interest. Like a few more agents wanted to read the full manuscript, which was really exciting. And like I said, because it was something that had never happened to me before, the fact that I had suddenly had interest in this book was kind of a big deal for me. So I was very, very excited. Meanwhile, the middle grade was pretty much being ignored across the board. When you send out a book, to literary agents, it will usually say on their website that it's like 6 to 8 weeks or thereabouts. Or when I was doing it, it was like 6 to 8 weeks before you send them like a little nudge to be like, oh, have you had a chance to look at this yet? I had no reason to like check with anyone. I was just letting it do its thing. I was ready to just like, I was ready to have to like query them again in 6 weeks and be like, by the way, have you had a chance to read this yet? I wasn't expecting it to move so quickly. So while everyone was reading this, suddenly Sam comes back to me again asking for a meeting. So once again, I had to send an email in politeness to everybody else who was reading it to say, by the way, I now have a meeting set up for this date. I'm just letting you know. Like, you're not pressuring them. You're not asking them to do anything. You're just telling them the position that you're in. And it's a really fun position to be in because it's nice to feel wanted. Prior to my meeting with Sam, which I was very excited and very terrified for, I picked up a copy of Getting Published by Harry Bingham, which is published by Bloomsbury. And I was actually reading it like in stages. Like as I got to each stage, I've not actually read it like what happens after you actually get a book deal. Like because this is so many years ago that I've just not looked at it since. And there was like a list of questions in there that you should ask your agent when you meet with them. I'd written these in a little notebook for myself, and Jordan had said, don't get your notebook out. Remember the questions and ask him the questions. But I was too nervous to remember my questions, and Sam was like, okay, cool, let's just go through your notebook and we'll like figure it out. He answered all my questions. He was great. For anyone, like Sam Copeland is the loveliest man. I love him a lot. He's so nice. Like we got on so well. But like we were chatting about Miley Cyrus in the first like 5 minutes, like, and because this was during the time when she was on the VMAs with Robin Thicke, it was all that stuff. So like we were talking about that, we were just talking about life. It was great. Like he used to be a bookseller, like we had a lot in common. Anyway, geez, the tangents. So we were chatting away, we were doing that. We started talking about the book, and Sam said to me he really liked it. He told me everything he liked about it, and then he told me that he thought that the second half of the book went off a cliff, which it did. The reason that I wasn't going to send this book out in the first place was because I thought the second half of it just didn't really work. Like I thought it was a bit messy and I didn't know how to fix it. And I said this to my friend Victoria Walters, the author of Coming Home to Glendale Hall, New Beginnings at Glendale Hall, Second Love of My Life, Summer at the Kindness Cafe. She's a women's fiction author now and she's killing it. I told her, I was like, I don't think I'm going to send it because like and she was like, George, it's a great concept. Just go for it. Like, what have you got to lose? And, you know, fair point. What do I have to lose? And it turns out I didn't really have anything to lose. Like, it was all going really well. So I definitely did the right thing. So he thought the second half went off a cliff and we were talking about ways to fix that. And I got this, like, impression from him, which was the same impression that I got from my dissertation advisor at the time. Whenever I had something from my dissertation advisor that I needed to work on, that he needed me to fix, he'd kind of throw a few things out there and it would like spark this like energy in me, and this suddenly I would know exactly what I needed to do to make something work. And it was that kind of energy that I got from Sam as well, which is what drew me to him, and actually which is why I eventually went with Sam, because like that connection was there. And it's something that we still have to this day. Like whenever I've written something and he said like, yes to this, maybe try something like this, and suddenly it's like, oh, of course. Hit myself in the head. That's not a good idea. And that's something we still have today. And I can't stress enough how essential it is that your literary agent is someone that you get on with. Like, they don't have to be your best friend. You don't have to be like kicking all the time and like going out for drinks and stuff, but it needs to be someone you can talk to and someone that you feel like you can get in touch with when you need to, because they are on your side. They are fighting your corner in the publishing world. So you need to be able to talk to them. They are your partner in crime. You're both trying to get this book published. So you need to be able to work together. And I guess a lot of that comes with like where your interests cross over. It also comes with like whether or not you're on the same page in terms of where you want your career to go. I know people that have left their literary agents and moved on to new people who have then absolutely done the business for them, and suddenly their careers are really working out now. It's like, you can never be sure. And yes, it is also possible that you'll be with an agent and that relationship will run its course and then you'll both part ways and it'll be lovely and mutual. But I can't stress enough how important it is to be able to talk to your literary agent both as a pal and as a professional person. I digress. So I went to another couple of meetings that went really well. Like, it was really fun. It was fun to kind of like be going and talking about my book and like hearing different people's perspectives on it, because everybody had a different idea of what they thought of the book and where they thought the book would go. And I ultimately went with Sam because that was who I felt the connection with. Like, we were on the same page when it came to like how to fix the book. We had similar ideas in like how that would work. And it was just something that, I don't know, it clicked for me. And it's very much that sort of like, if you know, you know. And like, I sort of knew, like, there was a part of me after the meeting that I had with him where I thought, yeah, I'm probably going to go with him. But I went to the other meetings because I wanted to keep my options open. And it was always the possibility that I was just blinded by the fact that there was an agent who actually wanted to talk to me. Like, I was so nervous before that meeting, like, because even though I knew literary agents, like, as people, I didn't actually know any, I'd never actually been to like a professional meeting with one. Again, further digressions. But I went with Sam. I chose Sam in the end. And I mean, it's been, when was that? 2014. So it's been 6 years. We've been 6 years. That tells you the kind of relationship that I have with my agent, that we've been together for 6 years. And my first book is only just being published. We worked on the book that I sent. So Boy Queen is not my first book. This is a story for another day, but Boy Queen is not my first book. Not my first rodeo, my friend. We worked on the book that he signed me with. We worked on it for like 6 months. We worked on it really hard. We took it right back to synopsis. We worked it all up and we got it working and we got it sent to publishers and no one took it on. And that just happens sometimes. We've worked on a lot of other things since. As you know, from just watching this video, the book that Sam signed me with wasn't even my first book. It was that middle grade thing. So that was my second book. So here's what we've got. We've got book that Sam signed me with, book I wrote while I was on submission, the book I wrote after that, the book I wrote after that, and Boy Queen. So Boy Queen is the 5th book that I have written with Sam. And that came about in like a really different way to how the submission process usually works. So it's taken like a while for me to get to having a book out, but you would be surprised at the amount of authors whose first books don't get published, where the book that the agent signed them with isn't the first book that gets published. So if you are with an agent and your first book hasn't sold, don't lose heart. If you are putting all this pressure on this one book to be like the be all and end all, don't. Like, it is precious and it is your baby, but also there's a lot of rejection in the world. There's a lot of rejection that comes from book world. Like, you might think that getting an agent is the be all and end all, and it's not. It's the next step towards the next thing, which is then the step towards the next thing. Like, it's just a bunch of steps. So enjoy it while you're on it. Like, and it's scary and it's stressful, but it's so much fun. And when you meet someone who gets you and gets your book, it's just the absolute business. Like, it's so much fun. So yes, that is how I got my literary agent. I did some weird things and I made some questionable decisions, and I went there looking like a non-professional person and talked about Miley Cyrus and got to know him, and it was really fun and scary and exciting. And then the book didn't sell, and you have to just pick yourself up and carry on, because that is life. And that is the end of this video. If there is anything publishing, writing wise you want me to talk about, feel free to leave it in a comment below, and maybe that will be a future video. But that is the end of this video. If you've made it this far, please leave me a red heart emoji down below. I sincerely hope you enjoyed that. I hope that it was enlightening in some way. And yeah, if you need anything else from me, you know where to find me. I love each and every one of your faces, and I'll speak to you as soon as I possibly can. Bye!